The president now ready to give some relief to farmers here. It could be up to $12 billion. Joni Ernst, of course, of Iowa, saying that kind of help is probably long overdue.
I think his reception will be very mixed. On one hand, with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, it has been a wonderful, wonderful boon for the state of Iowa, our middle and low income wage earners. They have really seen some great benefits. But then again, our farmers, which are quite a mainstay in Iowa, are really feeling the pinch of those tariffs. The retaliation has been pretty heavy directed at agriculture.
All right, the Bush 43 Special Assistant Ron Christie on this and how it is reverberating right now. More than just coincidental that he is offering up this amount of money right now to buffet the blow of these potential tariffs, some of them not potential, they're happening as we speak, for farmers. What did you make of it, Ron?
Good to see you, Neil. It really is reverberating here in D.C. today. What do I make of it? I don't like it. I'm a free trader guy. The president really is harming a lot of his base. We're talking about soybean farmers. We're talking about pork producers. We're talking about dairy farmers. Why is the federal government in the business of bailing out farmers to the tune of $12 billion when it's this administration's action that has led to the depressed wages and, frankly, to a depressed market for some of these farmers?
So when the president comes back and said, you know, it isn't free trade when the Chinese gouge us the way they do, fix their markets the way they do, their currency the way they do. This has been going on through Republican, Democratic administrations alike. They haven't done anything about it. I'm going to, you say?
I get that. I mean, the Chinese have been manipulating currency for many, many years now. They've been obviously trying to depress the amount of imports coming from the United States to China. But this isn't the right way to do it, Neil. I really worry about the impact on our economy, on our farmers, on our workers when we escalate and go to a trade war and a tariff war with China. I just don't think that's the right way to go.
I know you're not a market guy, but are you surprised the markets don't seem to agree with you? That maybe they're ignoring that real possibility? Or maybe they're thinking that it doesn't happen, but they've been racing to new highs. What do you make of it?
Well, I'm not a market guy per se, but I think the market folks are looking at the strong economic growth we've had, the low unemployment, all the other very good factors that are going on and saying, you know what, maybe we're not going to take a strong look at the tariff war that Trump is doing with China because every other aspect of our economy is doing quite well.
You know, he's speaking to a largely veterans group there in Missouri. I'm sorry, I just lost my place. And one of the things he will no doubt mention is the escalating tensions with Iran. He might talk about North Korea and signs that they are indeed, that country is indeed apparently dismantling a missile testing facility. Encouraging developments?
I believe so. Look, we haven't seen this sort of progress from North Korea since the Korean War. The fact that we've had Republican and Democratic administrations trying to talk to the dictatorships, trying to find a way to have a peaceful solution. If these reports are in fact true, Neil, that they are dismantling a nuclear facility, I look at that as a welcome development and a strong presidential leadership.
So what else do we have to see out of the North Koreans here? Because that seems to be the blueprint by which we base some of the other tough talk, followed by maybe more positive developments, like we were saying, with Iran and even when it comes to Russia. What do you make of the president's approach?
Well, I'd have an offshoot of the old Ronald Reagan adage of trust but verify. I don't trust the North Koreans, but we have to verify. So any opportunity that we have, and certainly Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has been doing a great job of going over there and continuing to talk and negotiate. If we continue to see signs that they are dismantling their programs and we're having significant progress, I say all power to President Trump and his administration for taking the strong and necessary steps to really de-escalate one of the most difficult spots in the world as it relates to tension and nuclear power.
All right, switching gears again to China and this ongoing trade war here. The president earlier this morning tweeting that tariffs are the greatest. Either a country that has treated the United States unfairly on trade negotiates a fair deal, or it gets hit with tariffs. Very black and white, very simple.
Very black and white, very simple. I just don't agree with that approach. Look, there are many things I think the president's doing right. I just don't think this escalation, particularly on Twitter, is the way to do it. Let's have negotiations. Let's have our commerce secretaries, our secretary of state, sit down with their Chinese counterparts to find a way to have fairer trade, more free trade. But just having a escalating battle in social media, just frankly, is not the right way to do it in my book, Neil.
You know, Ron, when the president addresses veterans, a largely supportive group, but I wonder how it wrestles with his very pragmatic approach to dealing with the Russians and maybe the back and forth with North Korea. They're a loyal bunch. Are they still that way?
They are. Look, the VFW, these patriots have served our country. They have put themselves on the line to make sure that we live in the greatest bastion of democracy and freedom. So the President of the United States, yes, they might not agree with him on all of his policies or some of his tactics, but I think that they are going to give him a very warm welcome. They'll be happy to hear what he has to say, and particularly as it relates to bringing home some of the remains of our bravest men and women in uniform who made the ultimate sacrifice in the Korean War. So, yeah, I'm looking for a very warm reception for President Trump momentarily.
All right. Thank you very, very much, Ron.